What's up, guys? My name is Khan, and we're back today with more Scrap Mechanics Survival, and you'll notice right away behind me, we have changed a few things in this solo world since the last episode. We finished the wall off a little bit. I brought it over to the ocean, ran out of bricks again, which is, I mean, not surprising, but brought the wall all the way into the ocean, built a little platform and a little stair up, and we're going to continue this platform down to the water and just kind of cover all this up. And then on the other side, same thing, exact same setup, where we got the staircase going up and this covered up again. And then finally, I changed the gates. I had that issue with the vertical gate where it would just get stuck and it wouldn't work. So I changed it to 2 horizontal gates, and you'll notice they're on a little bit of a runner plate, which doesn't make a difference for the vehicles, but it just keeps the gate, you know, sliding smoothly. And look at that. So we got 2 pistons. They just deploy to max, and we'll have to paint all this at some point, and they seal off our gate from the farm bots. So the wall still needs some extra armor, some extra reinforcements, stuff like that. But once again, I need to do more grinding for materials, so I'll finish that at a later date. What I want to do today is a little different. We've got our farm plot here, and it's 8 by 12 farm plots total for 96 of them. And I want to set up an automated farming system. So I had noticed a while ago that in the vacuum pump setting, it actually says in the description that you can use it to pick up plants and put into a chest and even shoot and place items from a chest. So I did some testing, and you can, in fact, use it to plant seeds as well as vacuum up seeds. So what I want to do is make a system that is built off on the side here, and it goes out over all these plants, and it automatically goes through, vacuums up all the plants and seeds, plants a new one, and then waters it afterwards. Now, I did go through in creative mode and sort of prototype something. So right here, already in this chest, we've got just a ton of these pipes. I don't exactly know perfectly the number we need, but I mean, hopefully this is enough. And then we've got 3 vacuum pumps, a water tank, and a water gun. So 1 pump is for pulling the water out of the ocean, 1 pump is for planting the seeds, and 1 pump is for harvesting the plants. And then of course we've got the water gun. And in the other chest, it's just a ton of logic stuff. So we've got some controllers, sensors, a bunch of logic gates, some timers, button switches, and then some pistons. I don't know if this is, again, the exact count of the logic gates we needed. I know we needed at least like 4 or 5 timers, but I know the piston count's right. We need 3 pistons that are full to go all the way out to the one end, and then 2 pistons to go across and set this whole system up. So hopefully this is enough materials, because quite frankly, I'm out of glue. The biggest thing with all the logic gates is that they all take a single piece of glue, which is 3 clamshells per. And I actually had Cosmo join me, and we spent so long getting clamshells, and I'm already out of all the glue. So I think this is enough stuff, and we're gonna get started right away. So the first thing I wanna do is just lay out a platform in behind here with some wood. And this is gonna be sort of our starting platform, and we're gonna build basically a gantry system. So it's going to be like a frame that gets pushed out over top of this and then comes all the way back. So we're going to try and put the 1 set of pistons in the middle. I don't know how much space I need for this, so let's just put it here. Eventually I want to cover this structure up and make it look like something, but I think this should be a good enough height. And then we need a piston, a block, a piston, a block, and another piston, and a block. And that's going to be our basic frame, and that's going to go, of course, over in both directions. All right, and then we got to set up the horizontal movement, which is going to be done with just a piston attached here, and it's just 2 of them. These are going to work a little bit differently, so we'll wire them up in a second, but they're going to go here, and they're going to attach to a wooden frame. Actually, we should probably make this out of wood too, just to keep this really, really light. And this wooden frame is going to hold the 3 different devices. Now, before we actually put those on this, we're going to have to set up the circuit that controls this, simply because if we don't have the circuit set up, they need to do something very specific. So in order to get these pistons to actually stay in one spot, we're going to have to pulse them. And when you pulse a piston, you can basically have 1 pulse opposite the other, and it can control the exact position and movement of it. All right, so to set this up, we're gonna have a simple loop of 3 logic gates. One's a NOR, one's an OR, and one's an AND gate. So they loop like this in a circle. And then to power the pistons, we just put another couple gates. One's an XNOR, and one's an OR gate again, I believe. And now they're gonna flash opposite. So whenever this one's on, this one's off, and vice versa. And then we're just gonna put a couple other gates here just as a shut-off system. And then we put them both to these pistons. So now you'll notice the pistons are vibrating constantly, but this block on the end here, it doesn't move because they're vibrating exactly opposite. And even if we extend the range of these out to 13, as long as they're the exact same with the same speed, we can vibrate on this, but you'll notice the block on the end doesn't move. So it's kind of a really cool system. And now we hook up a couple extra OR gates here to control this. So we'll just paint these ones so they're easier to identify. Shut off will be blue, extension will be green, and retract will be red. Now the blue goes to these outer AND gates, so it won't actually pulse anything if it's off. And of course we can hook that into a switch to turn that on and off. We can also hook that into this actually to stop all the pulsing. And now, there we go, turns on, turns off, perfect stuff. And then of course for the two, extension and retraction, we're gonna get rid of these buttons eventually, but for extension, you want to power, I think it's this one and this one at the same time. And for retraction, you want to power this one and this one at the same time. Is that right? Yeah, so you see if we press the red one, it shuts off both those gates, and if we press the green one, it turns them both on. So now, if we pulse the system, our block isn't moving. If we press the extension button, it'll extend, and when we stop extending, our block stops moving again. And if we press the retraction button, it'll retract, and if we let go again, the block stops moving. So using this, we can actually increment which row. So we can go row, and then deploy. It'll go along that row, do its thing, come back, and then we can increment it a little bit more, and then deploy it, have it go along that row, and come back. So this is actually gonna work really, really well. And if we shut it all off, actually, if it's at full extension, and we turn it off, it just naturally retracts back to the start position. So water gun here, like so. That looks good. And then a vacuum pump, like this. Oh, maybe a little lower. Yeah, that should be okay. And then another vacuum pump in front. And then we're gonna have to actually extend this actually forward and put another gantry. So we're gonna have to move this whole thing back. It's a little bit close because I want this to be completely off the farm plots. I don't want it to overhang the farm plots when it's not being used. So we're gonna have to move it back a little bit. All right, perfect, just like that. So that's our gantry. And then we're going to just put another wood reinforcement piece here. Let's just weld it up and actually see how this is positioned. And then we can kind of back attach it. So this needs to be welded like here, right? So that's where it's gonna rest when it starts, which means these pistons are extending like way past this. Okay, so they go out to about here. All right, so we'll put a block there. We'll detach this and we'll break this and we'll re-weld that to that. Now we should be able to do one last test. Push the button, whole thing extends, push the other button, whole thing retracts, perfect. And now let's hook these up and push it out and it works pretty good. And we bring it back. All right, so we're gonna need some guide rails. It's very, very heavy, so that's fine. We're gonna just put some guide sections and eventually once we get more brick, we'll extend this all the way down, but there we go. All right, that is so much better. Look at that, that's perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna hook up the watering tank because we just need to pump water out of the ocean. So we'll hook that up. That might be enough. And then just one down. Just trying to save as many pipes as possible, so this is just gonna work. All right, and then vacuum pump, pull up, excellent. And I think that's good enough, right? And then we can just have a switch on this thing that's just always on. And hook it into that. All right, it's working, excellent. So we're pumping water. And of course, that's just hooked into the water cannon, like so. All right, so the start is gonna be this gate here. And we're just gonna paint it like white, so it's really easy to spot compared to all the other ones. So we're gonna hook this into a single tick generator, which is just kind of 3 gates. You can do it with 2, but I'm just doing it with 3 just so it's a little bit safer. And if you notice, that one blip, this one block at the top corner, sends a single blip. So first this goes through the XOR gate, and then the AND gate catches up, and it sends 1 tick through that every time. And then that tick, of course, we will put into a memory bit, which will be basically our on-off switch for the entire process, so we know if it's running. I want to have a button run it, just because it's, like, cooler. You could do this with a switch, but then you'd have to turn it off. This way we can auto-turn off the switch, and actually we just have to do this. So now if we hit the button, turns on the memory bit, turns off the memory bit, and now we can just, you know, if we spam it, it still won't break the system because of that tick generator. So it's pretty good, and that'll give us the ability to start and stop the cycle. So right away, when we start the cycle, obviously we got to turn on the jerking piston motion. We got to get the piston starting. So we got to have That starts up the pistons right away. And then we just need a couple timer loops to make this all work. So the first timer loop needs to just extend all these out and then retract them, and then extend them out and retract them, and just continue that process until this shuts off. So to do that, we're just gonna use a timer and then a couple of logic gates. So over here we can do that setup. And basically it's an XOR gate and an AND gate and a timer, and they feed in a loop like so. Actually, you know what? Let's reverse this loop direction. Let's do it this way. There we go. It shouldn't really matter, but basically now we have a timer. So if we set this to, let's say, 10 seconds, and this AND gate feeds out to the yellow thing, now when we turn this on, it's going to go out, and it'll keep going out, and when the 10 seconds is up, it's going to retract for 10 seconds, and it'll be the same time in and out. So however long this timer is set to, it'll turn off this gate for the same amount of time. So then we need a system so that when this is retracting, as this retracts, this thing gets incremented over, which we're going to have to do some timing for that as well, because we're just going to hold this green button. So to do that, we're going to use the NOT of this AND gate, and we'll actually just build it over here. So if we take this AND gate, feed it over, and we make this a NOT gate, now this NOT gate is going to send a pulse for a certain amount of time to the extension button. So to do that, that's just a timer with an XOR gate and an AND gate. And basically the XOR gate takes the signal from both, the timer goes and it feeds to the AND gate. So now when this timer is set to, I don't know, like 0.5 seconds, let's say, that means it'll send a 0.5 second pulse down this AND gate and then shut off. And we actually need to hook this gate up as well. And this we feed into the green. So now when we start up the system, did it already extend it a little bit? No, it's in the first row, right? And now when it comes back, it should send a 0.5 second pulse to the green, which it just did. And I don't know if that's enough. We'll have to check the spacing on that. It probably isn't. But now every time it goes, and now it should just go out again. Yeah, it just goes out on its own. Perfect. And then when it comes back, it'll send another 0.5 second pulse to the green. There you go, which moves it over. So that's not enough. So we need a longer timer on that, which isn't a problem. Let's try it with like 0.65 maybe, and let's turn this off. When we turn it off, it should all go back to 0, which it does. And let's turn it back on again. We should honestly hook this up to the other button as well. There we go, perfect. All right, turn it on. So it increments out. That's pretty good. I think that's lined up enough. It might be a little close to the edge, but that's okay. And then 0.65 seconds does what? Where does it line up? That's pretty good. So the way this is going to work, because it has to be done in a specific order, it's always going to be doing its motions from this end to that end. So when it starts, it has to first suck up the plants in case there's something harvested, plant a new one, and then water the new one right after. And so it always has to go from the back to the front. And that's pretty much how it's going to work. Now, in order to get this thing to water properly or to do all that, we're actually going to just use some sensors. Originally, I wanted to do this on a crazy timing system, but John actually kind of pointed out that sensors are just a lot easier to deal with than timers. And on top of that, with the way this moves, I want to make sure that it's always hitting the plots. And, you know, if we had the timer just slightly off, then it wouldn't hit the proper plot. This actually looks really, really good. This is looking really, really clean. All right, so we're going to turn this off. Let it go back to 0. Let's actually hook up the water cannon. So to do that, we're actually just going to use some sensors, which is why I have some sensors here. So the first thing is we're going to put a sensor under this guy, which is the seed dispenser, and that's going to be like that. And we're going to put another sensor under the water cannon here, and that'll be for the water cannon. And these two sensors just have a range of 1, and we're going to feed them through a couple logic gates. So each of those sensors is going to go up to a logic gate for the inverse of the sensor. This NOT gate here is just to allow us to put notches in this. So what we're going to do is line it up. So every single plant, there's going to be like a little gear tooth here. And whenever the sensor drives over the gear tooth, it's going to basically turn off, which means that the NOT gate gets a signal to turn on. And then we need another gate as well. We need an AND gate, because we want to make sure that they're only working when they're moving in the one direction. When they're retracting back, we don't want them to actually do anything. So AND gate, and then that goes into the system, AND gate into the system, and this AND gate has to also receive power from this one here, because this is the extension timer. So when you're extending, you're allowed to deploy, but when you're retracting, because this little gear tooth thing is going to pick up the sensors on the way back, you don't want it to do anything. So now if we test this, this should actually water every single crop in this thing. And look at that. Look at it go. We're probably going to need to slow this down. I think it goes too fast, but that's why we've got controllers as well, because the seed dispenser can only dispense seeds so fast. All right, so let's hook up the 2 chests at the top. You'll notice I kind of built everything on this side, and the reason why is I'm eventually going to just cover this whole thing up, and we can have like a platform up here so you can access the chests and then hit the start button and watch it from, you know, up here. I'm not going to necessarily do that in this episode, but eventually we'll set that up. Maybe if we have extra resources. We're kind of almost out of wood. Let's put a curved piece here. Can I do this? Oh, and then it'll get rid of the thing. Okay, we got to go up a little bit and then curve it flat. This is just kind of a waste of pipes, but whatever. Now I can do this. There we go. Excellent. And can we put this chest the opposite direction, maybe? And hook it up? Nope. That way? All right, perfect. So that's our gantry system now, and it should still all work, right? If we turn it on. It's gonna start dispensing stuff too. Yeah, so there it's dispensing. So we're gonna have to grab some seeds. I brought a ton of seeds along. We'll have to test and see how fast it can dispense. And if it can't dispense fast enough, we just have to slow down these pistons and then slow down the total time that the pistons have to go in each direction. So that's not a big deal. Let's test some seeds. Let's test like a line of 12 seeds and see if they work or how many gaps we get. And actually, you know what? We don't even need to do that. Let's just test like 2 seeds and see where the first 2 go. Because if the first 2 don't go into the first 2 slots, then we've got a problem. So let's see this. Here we go. Okay, it's like, yeah, so it's like, it's way too fast. Look at that. It planted this seed, and it planted this seed. It's skipping 2 in the middle. So we're gonna have to slow this down, which is fine. That's why we got controllers. So this whole piston setup, we gotta reduce. We gotta put some controllers in the way and sequence these pistons so they go a lot slower. So that one goes to there, that one goes to there, that one goes to there. This goes to all 3 of them. And we're just gonna have them go one at a time. So 15, and then 15, and then 15. And because they're 1 step apart at the slowest setting, this should go 1, 2, 3 instead of all 3 at once. Of course, we're dying. I'm trying to get the farm up so we stop dying, but we're dying. So that's okay. And then for the extension time, it's obviously gonna be longer than 10 seconds. Let's put it to 30. And see if that's long enough. If it's too long, we can shorten it, but let's try this out and see what happens. How slow it goes. There we go. So it's definitely slower. Which is good. Moves a lot better. I think that's still too fast. It's deploying. It still skips. It only does 1 every 2, so it still only got there. It still missed the 1 in the middle, so we got to slow it down even further, which we can do. We can't go any slower than this, but we'll break each controller into 2 movements. So each piston will do 8 first and then 15 to get its full movement. So this one will start here now and do 8 first and then 15. It's not going to be like the constant speed all the way across. Nice. It's perfect. So it actually hit both of them. Okay, let's bring this back. Let's do a full row. Let's do 12. And maybe we'll actually let these 12 plants grow so we can test the vacuum function afterwards once they, you know, grow and we've fended off the farm bots for tonight. So let's put in 12 into this and see if it does the full row. Let's extend this time out from 30 seconds to like a full minute. It doesn't matter. This is basically the time before it goes on to the next row. So we'll have to play with this so it's not excessive. But if it is too excessive, it's just going to get to the other end and wait there. So it's not really the end of the world. So let's turn this on. All right. Should do a full row. And water them all. Excellent. This is actually amazing. It's a little slow. You can see whenever a controller gets to like the point in between steps, it kind of stops for a second. You can see what it does. But look at that. We get the whole thing. Oh, and we do have to extend this track out, I guess, because it's going to, the sensor's picking up nothing here, so it's going to start deploying seeds out into the ground here. So that's not a big deal. Just extend the track out, just like that. You know, after working on this with all the logic and stuff, I realized, you know, because logic components take glue, it's kind of pointless to make super automated stuff, at least in farming cases, because with farming, the only real tedious part is watering it. And actually, that was perfect. That was just enough time to do it. So 30 seconds a row. So that means 30 seconds a row. This whole thing is 8 rows. And it's basically 30 seconds times 2 because once it gets back, it has to wait again on a 30-second cooldown. We can actually probably switch that around. We could make this timer a little bit more custom. So it's going to be over 5 minutes just to do this whole farm plot, which you could do by hand so much quicker. The only tedious part is watering, but if you're only using a watering cannon, you can make it go so much faster because the planter is really what slows everything down. It can only plant so fast. All right, we got 8 seconds left. Let's get up on the wall real quick. Oh, great, we're hungry. This is perfect. Well, let's try to kill everybody before we die, I guess. 1 second, where are you guys gonna spawn? Over there? And behind us. Okay, let's get these guys first. Closer to the wall, it's just one. Die. Easy mode. Take your circuits. Alright, you're dead too. Excellent. Anybody else? Anybody else? Oh my goodness, he swims around! Well, we're gonna have to extend the wall out. We're gonna have to extend the wall. I did not think they would swim around that. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna switch the timer system around so it goes out for 30 seconds and then comes back for less time. So in order to do that, we're gonna have to change this up a little bit and do it with a memory bit again. This single tick here is going to go through a timer loop. So it's gonna be 2 gates and then 2 timers. So it'll go through an OR gate first, an AND gate, and then 2 timers. This timer will be 30 seconds for extension. And then this timer will be whatever the retraction time is. Let's say 15 to start. We can probably change that. So this goes into this and then loops around like so. And that AND gate here is also set to this to turn off the entire system. So then finally, we need another memory bit here as we're starving to death, of course. But we need another memory bit that feeds off this stuff whenever we want it to. This memory bit, we're just gonna have an OR gate on top to wire everything in so that we can just connect other stuff to it. So it needs to get activated off the input of the first blip, and then it needs to get deactivated after this 30-second timer is done. And that should be it. So it should extend and retract. And then this memory bit, we of course hook into our extension function, and we're starving yet again. So let's try this out. So it should go out. It's activated. This memory bit you can see is lit up. And there is a 1 tick pulse going down this 30-second timer. So hopefully that's enough. When that 1 tick pulse gets to full, it'll blip again, which will shut off this memory bit, and the whole thing will retract back for this second timer. And the single tick is basically going to keep going around this loop until this memory bit here, the on-off power, gets shut off, at which point it'll stop going around the loop. So there we go. It'll blip again. Perfect, so now it's coming back. Why is it... Oh, that's right, I deleted the thing, so I gotta change the AND gates up there. They're not connected to anything, so it's going in both directions. We can fix that again. Alright, so we're just gonna connect the memory bit here into the AND gates that were back, and this should literally be the end of it. Now, the final thing we gotta do is have the off switch that turns off the power when the gondola gets to this last row, but we can just do that with another sensor and have that come back and send a blip through the system. So let's just try this. Power on. Get the timing right. So the vacuum pump is technically running, but there's nothing for it to pull up, so it doesn't care. This is spraying. These plants are so watered, it's amazing. They're like the most watered plants, I think, ever. And this should be long enough. 30 seconds is long enough for it to get to the end, right? Completely. As long as that last plant gets a burst of water. The nice thing about this system, too, is with the sensors, we're not wasting any water or any seeds. Yeah, that's just enough. Perfect. Then it comes back. And how long does it need to come back? Still had a bit of time left. We could honestly probably bring this down to like 10 seconds instead of 15. So we'll let the tick pass, and then we'll bring this to 10. And see if that's enough. Why does this controller keep screwing up? The controllers are set, and they haven't changed. But like the game changes it. You see that? It deployed like 3 pistons at the same time, and now it's waiting out there. It shouldn't have done that. I have no idea why these controllers are screwing up. Let's see if it screws up on this next one. That was so weird. So it retracts normally, but it should go through all the steps. The steps are all set correctly. Yeah, now it's extending all of them at once. Why? What? Is it because I'm using 3 different controllers? That makes no sense. Maybe I have to have them all on one controller. All right, let's just, you know what? Let's put them all on one controller and let's upgrade one controller. Maybe that's what's screwing it up. I've never heard of that though. So let's upgrade this controller. Oh, perfect. We have just enough. That's excellent. Okay. So let's try it now. I don't know why it was doing that. That was weird. But now it should be sequenced properly. 8:15. 8:15. There we go. Maybe the 3 controllers was screwing it up. Okay, that's good. One at a time. Otherwise, it's too fast. If it's too fast, it defeats the whole purpose. But I've never seen that with 3 controllers before. I don't know, maybe it's because it wasn't starting at the very beginning and waiting for the periods, but it was working initially and then it stopped. So whatever, as long as this works, I really don't care, having spent some component kits on extra controllers. All right, so that should go all the way out. 30 seconds. Gets them all, perfect. Goes over 1 row, excellent. That worked. Now it shouldn't go over a row again. But now it needs the full 30 seconds to retract as well. So it does need the full time to retract now. It can't just snap back. Okay, so this is a giant pointless circuit that can all go back to the way it was. It's 1 minute per row. It's going to go 30 seconds out, 30 seconds back, 30 seconds out, 30 seconds back. So at 8 rows, it's going to be 8 minutes, which means you literally have to start this thing in the morning and it'll just run and then go off and do your adventures and then come back and your farm will be done. Like, it'll do all its stuff automatically. But like I said, because of the seeding, that's the only thing holding us back. If we could seed faster and we could plant seeds at a much quicker rate, then we wouldn't have an issue. We could just, you know, spam the seeds down as fast as the water cannon and go boom, 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 done. But because the seeding is slow, unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do to make that better. So let's hook up this timer loop again. That's the XOR gate again. Into this, into that, and hook up the AND gate as well, and then the NOT of the AND gate goes there. 30 seconds, boom, done. So now this should work fully, and all we have to do is put the end trigger. This is amazing. This is so good. Watering. Oh yeah, that's perfect. I mean, the vacuum pump kind of pulls up a lot more than just the one plant near it, but that's perfect. Amazing. Then it comes back, moves over a lane. Awesome. Okay, this is going to be great. I was actually just thinking, the one thing I might do at some point, which we could actually do, which wouldn't be that big a deal, is double up everything. So if we had another pipe coming out the other side of each of these with another vacuum and another, you know, thing and another water cannon, we could actually just hook them all into the same logic setup and have it do 2 rows. So it would do the first row and the 4th row at the same time. And then it would only take 4 minutes because it would only go across 4 rows and then reset. I'm not going to do that in this episode because obviously I need more materials. I need to get 2 more vacuum pumps. I think I have enough tubes. Yeah, probably enough tubes, but I need 2 more vacuum pumps and another watering cannon. You know what? Do we even have that? Do we have enough for that? What is this honeycomb? Yeah, we don't have component kits. So I'll do that probably later at some point in time just to upgrade the farm and make it faster. But at least this gives the idea of exactly how it's going to work. But we could cut the entire time in half simply by doubling stuff up and having it go from 8 minutes down to 4 minutes, which I think is totally worth it because 8 minutes to let your farm run, I mean, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it is fully automatic. You just hit one button, leave, come back later, and it's done. So it's not the end of the world, but it is definitely a tedious thing that could be done a lot quicker. All right, so I let the thing run through its cycle and I did some checking, and actually when this white block goes off the end, that's when it's completely done all of its stuff. Yeah, I know there's unauthorized farming detected, thanks. But yeah, so we need to just basically measure when this white block goes off the end, that's when it's completely finished and it just needs to shut off the entire system. So we're just gonna put a sensor here, and just like before, have this on a 1 distance, and when it runs off the end, it should basically be completely over. And we're gonna have that then go through a NOT gate, which we'll put down here, and that NOT gate will then go through the exact same OR gate right here at the start. Actually, we can just put this right next to it. So it's just gonna basically flick the power switch. So that NOT gate comes from this sensor, and whenever that sensor runs off the edge, it'll flick this. Now, we can actually demo this really quickly. I've got this set to 5 seconds. We'll actually change it to 3. And what that means is it's only going to go out for 3, come back for 3. So it's not going to even reach the plants, but it should at least give the idea of what's going to happen here. So it starts up, goes out for 3, goes over, comes back, goes out, does its row, goes over, comes back. And of course, these would be, 30-second intervals, so it would be taking a lot longer normally. But goes out, does each row one at a time. And when it gets to the final row here, it should do this one, push over, line up, Now it's going to do this final row, and when it's done this final row, it should push that sensor right off, which then triggers the shutdown, shuts down the whole system, and it's going to retract all the way back to the start. So there we go. Fully automated farming system. Change this back to 30 seconds. And if we were to turn this on now, it would run for 8 minutes. And it'll do its thing. It'll water all the plants over the course of 8 minutes. It'll get them all completely vacuumed up. It'll harvest them. It'll put seeds down. It'll water the seeds. And then you just set it and forget it. And when it's done, it automatically shuts itself back off. Amazing. That's kind of ridiculous. I'm definitely going to double it up, I think. I feel like doubling it up is definitely going to be the step to make this faster, so it's going to do rows 1 and 4 at the same time. And of course, if you want less seeds, just put less seeds in the chests, but it'll be super easy to duplicate those tubes coming out the other side and have this exact same thing twice on the gondola. But either way, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm not going to farm any more than this just yet. I only want to farm a little bit at a time, and you can easily do that. Just don't put as many seeds in it because, you know, you can control your farming that way. But I'm really worried about base defense, so I want to make sure that I'm only farming a little bit. And to be honest, this will probably be my last night of farming, and then I'll stop for a while to make sure the waves calm down. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And while you're at it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.